first school board meeting of 2022. We're excited that you can all join us. We have new microphones. That's the exciting announcement of the evening. We're hoping that you can hear us a little bit better than you may have been able to in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. And we have all of our school board directors in attendance except for Vice President Miller. He was not able to join us tonight. We have all of our student board reps here as well, except for Madison. She hopefully will be able to join us later. And we have Olivia Tamer joining us up at the dais. We're excited to have her as well. And speaking of Olivia, she's going to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you all could please stand and follow in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will move on to agenda item 2.01, which is our action to approve the regular meeting agenda. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 2.01, action to approve the regular meeting agenda?
Madam President, I move to approve the regular meeting agenda item 2.01.
Thank you. Director Pagnelli made the motion.
I second the motion.
And Director Wiggins seconded. Thank you both. Do we have any discussion? Okay, I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of agenda item 2.01, action to approve the regular meeting agenda, passes 4-0. And now we will move on to agenda item 3.01, which is our public comment portion of the evening. Just as a reminder for everybody, each person will be given 3 minutes per topic to comment, and a maximum of 20 minutes per any one topic will be allowed. Speakers whose comments are less than the 3 minutes in length may not defer their remaining time to others. If there are multiple speakers on one topic, speakers may be limited to points of view not yet expressed. Any person wishing his or her comment retained as part of the permanent record may submit a prepared statement to the board secretary prior to the oral presentation. The president may interrupt or terminate an individual statement when it is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Comments and concerns relative to district personnel will not be heard in public. Rather, they should be directed through the complaints concerning school personnel or programs, which is policy 4220. Formal presentations must be scheduled with the superintendent in writing, no later than Tuesday noon, 1 week preceding the regular meeting. And finally, per board procedure, we will not answer or respond to any questions posed by a speaker tonight, but you are welcome to follow up if you have any questions with Ms. Wheeler at the end of the meeting. So tonight we have 2 public comments. And first, Shundaya Dawson, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Shandia, thank you so much.
Good evening, happy new year. I have a conflict resolution story, a student family engagement suggestion, and 2 announcements. My child came to me and said that the neighbor threw a snowball in his face over the holiday break. I asked my child if he asked the neighbor not to throw a snowball in his face, and he said he did. We must teach people how to treat us and establish healthy boundaries with others. That foundation can happen at a very young age. I'm happy to say that the neighbor knows us. We do our best to try to build community relationships, to create a sense of belonging with our neighbors. The young neighbor felt comfortable to come directly to us because we have established a relationship with him and his family. The neighbor came over and asked to speak to our child and apologized to our child for throwing the snowball in his face. My child thanked him for his apology. The issue was resolved between the 2 men without parent involvement. The 2 young boys solved the problems and made better decisions together. We handle problems by going directly to people. That is how problems are quickly resolved. We address them immediately to make them right between one another. Our young neighbors used empathy. We understood he could have very well walked away and went about his day, but he didn't. He did some self-reflection, saw that he hurt his neighbor, and he came to him and made it right. No ego, no pride. It's not easy to confront the person you hurt, and I commend him on his bravery for doing what was honorable. He took responsibility for his behavior, no coddling, no excuses. We learn a lot from our young neighbor's actions. Let's stop focusing on labeling a person as bad and focus on working on improving our behaviors, being better humans to one another. There's obviously extenuating circumstances such as mental disorders and other conditions that can cause us to act out towards one another. One method we like to practice at home is halt, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. We're all human, and we all make mistakes, but it's how we work towards being better. One thing I try to tell myself every day is self, it's not about you. Before I speak, I think. THINK. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind? That's how we check our ego and our motives. Hate is a sickness that is only fed by ignorance. Knowledge is the cure to loving your neighbor as yourself. I mentioned earlier that I had a student and family engagement suggestion. I propose a Tahoma Family Fun Night. Tahoma students, staff, and family located at Tahoma High School. An evening with similar to the format of vaccination clinics, tables and games, arts and crafts, and basketball. Fun for families and students, pizzas and drinks, and community sponsors. Why not even a bouncy house? The theme, Tahoma, you belong here. I love the theme. But
And
you can't
Shandy,
realize to belonging with community that you don't even have a relationship with.
Shandia,
Yeah, my time is up. Thank you.
thank you very much for joining us tonight. And Andy, you're next.
Madam President, may I ask a question? Do we know if that public comment was submitted in written form as well, or? It was not. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Andy Silly. I have a request for you to remove a dangerous book found in the holdings at Rock Creek Elementary School. The book is titled A is for Activists. The claim is that it is appropriate for ages 3 to 7, but when I describe its contents, I trust that you will agree with me that it is not appropriate for that age group. The book is marketed as a tool for teaching elementary students their ABCs. The actual purpose is to indoctrinate these very young students into the Marxist ideology. The opening quickly gets down to business. A is for activists. It states, it makes clever use of alliteration to urge these young students to actively answer a call, any call, to action. Are you an advocate? Are you an abolitionist, meaning a defunder of police? Are you an activist? It waits until the letter X to identify one of its ideal activist models, Malcolm X, an advocate of human rights in the 1960s who righteously asserted, rightly, we declare our right on this earth to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day. All well and good. But then he added, we intend to bring this into existence by any means necessary. A is for Activist is not an ABC book. It is a primer on Marxism. Under the letter R, it celebrates its role models for our children. Radical Reds, ruinous radicals, and rabble-rousing riffraff. It says, C is for cat. Okay, great. But then it adds, C is for co-op, a creative counter to corporate vultures. I'd say the most disturbing thing is near the letter M. M is for May Day, a holiday created by socialists, communists, and anarchists. It suggests that our young students become members of marching bands with megaphones as their instruments. The purpose of A is for Activist is to subvert the social order of the United States, not to teach our children to read or write. I urge you to remove it from the library shelves at Rock Creek Elementary School. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Andy. And that concludes agenda item 3.01. So we will move on to agenda item 4.01, which is our administrative report. Superintendent Hansen, do you have an administrative report for us tonight?
Yeah, I've got 3 items. Item number 1, just want to make sure the board is aware and continue to update the board around progress towards being prepared to come to the board to ask for the creation of an ad hoc committee to support as we move forward with budget development. And we would ask for a broad range of groups being on that ad hoc committee. I've had several meetings with our finance department and several other folks as we're preparing to come to the board. We have another meeting tomorrow, and hopefully within the next few weeks, we'll get to bring something in front of the board to have a conversation around that. Second item, Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority held a vaccination clinic at Glacier Park last Saturday. We had close to 300 5 to 11-year-olds receive their first vaccination dose, so wanted to update the board around that. There'll be an additional clinic going on this Saturday, but I don't have information about how many signups have occurred. So those are the first doses for those students. And then lastly, I wanted to chat a little bit about the weather delays last week and give the board some insights. Our school system, as you all know very well, covers a wide expanse, physical expanse of area, and including Jones Road down near Renton all the way out to where Val lives, out in Hobart and Ravensdale and some areas that are definitely starting to move towards the foothills. So we see quite a bit of different weather, especially in the morning. And as we return from midwinter break, or Christmas break rather, on January 3rd, one of the pieces that happened is not extremely unusual, but around 4, 5, 6 a.m., we had temperatures around 35 degrees and a lot of wet roads. And then about 6 to 7 a.m., the temperature drops a couple of degrees and we end up with ice showing up on the road. So that's a piece that we monitor very carefully, but we're also facing the challenge of the wide expanse of roads, outlying areas. Feel really good about the 2-hour late starts and the fact that we were able to inform our families early on that. And I really want to give a shout out to Sean Kelly and the folks over at Transportation and Lori for their leadership, but also the sheer hours that they put in getting our kids to school safely. A lot of hands got put into work over last week, so thank you to them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Superintendent Hansen. We will move on now to agenda item 4.02, which is our student board representative report, and Olivia is going to lead that portion of the meeting.
So students have had a slow and steady start back from break with these snow dates and late starts, which have been nice. And we the people want to date this weekend. We have a school coming up called Bright Star in a couple of weeks, and spring sports are starting to come up. So that is all going well, and just concerns we have is about COVID, and we're looking at how other districts are responding to this new strain. But another concern we have around COVID is just some students are still showing up regardless of whether they have it or not, and we kind of have concerns about that spreading. And also concerns for students who are staying homesick in terms of them keeping up on schoolwork and catching up. So I think that's something that's kind of hard to tackle, but we need to look into more.
Thank you, Olivia. We will move on to agenda item 4.03, which is our board director reports, and we'll start with Director Paganelli.
And I apologize, Madam President, may I go at the tail end tonight?
Yes, I will go at the very end.
Yeah,
That's okay. Okay, so Haley, would you like to go next?
Oh, sure. So first and foremost, I just want to say thank you also for to the Tahoma staff keeping our kids safe. The phone rang in the morning and getting the text letting us know if roads were safe was very, very much appreciated. I know for myself and my kids, and I'm sure for everyone, all the other families as well. Also, just want to thank Tahoma staff for keeping the doors open. I know that it's really difficult right now. There's a lot of spread and a lot of sick kiddos and sick staff, and I know it's not easy. So I just want to say thank you for keeping our kids at school right now. So Happy New Year to everyone. I have been home with kids for a couple of days as we laid out some quarantining issues. But I was able to get out today and attend the educational leadership team's meeting. And I really enjoyed that time. I got to listen to Dr. Caprice Holland speak, and I was able to reflect on the 5-year goals that you guys had put in place prior to my time here. And I love the way that the work today really emphasized the sense of belonging for our kids. As the work continued today, I really just thought about each kid sitting in a classroom and how the information that was presented to us would really greatly benefit each of them to have a place where they feel welcome and a real strong sense of belonging. So I really appreciated attending that today. And the other big item that happened for me this week was I got to meet with a group of parents who are recently gathering. They have concerns over some drug use of some of the kids of our youth in our community and our school. And I was able to listen to a lot of their different concerns, and it's really critical stories that they have, and it really just made me think about each of the kids that come over to my home on a daily basis with my son's friends, or it could be any of our kids. And so this work that they're doing, they're gathering, and they're more of a support group for each other right now, and they've been able to share some of their feelings with me, and I've been able to reach out and speak with some individuals in our community, some leaders at the city, and some leaders at school, and everyone's working really, really hard to help support the youth of our community and find ways to bring more awareness and also education about what we should be looking for. So that's very important work, and I'll continue to attend. That's on Wednesday nights, and so I will zoom in again tomorrow night and see what they have to say. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Director Pendergraft and Dr. Wiggins.
Yeah, I would just, is there new, right? Nice. I would just, second, third, fourth, thanks to the transportation and ops team for keeping the doors open the first week of school. To Superintendent Hanson's point, I think when you wake up and you look out your window, recognizing that circumstances could be a little different from people on the other side of the district, I think is important to remember. So, Superintendent, thank you for that reminder. And then, kind of along with that, put the weather on top of COVID, on top of the surge that we're seeing in cases, and a big thanks to, again, everybody in operations right now for keeping things going. AJ with the messaging and keeping parents updated and current. There is no shortage of information out there. So to the community, if you don't know, it's there. So just it's not hard to find. So AJ, thank you for that, being very, very adamant about getting that messaging out. Congrats to the We the People. I think where's we have our reps? Yep, right there. Going to they won state. I don't know, have they determined if nationals is going to be held in person yet? We don't know that yet. So I'm crossing my fingers for the students in that program, because that's quite an accomplishment, and it's having contributed and helped out in a small way with some of the preparation for that. I'm extremely excited to see what they do, whether they get to go in person or not. Congratulations to them. Thank you to HR for, again, this is probably should be lumped in with everything else, but if you haven't noticed, there's a shortage of people in the classrooms. I was in a 504 meeting with my daughter earlier this week, and half the 504 support team had to pull out to go sub in classes, and so people are pulling double and triple time to fill slots and keep the kids in the classrooms. And there are other districts that are temporarily shuttering in light of these staff shortages. So again, thank you for that work, Tracy. And then I had a chance this week to meet with Director Art, Emily, our Director of Equity, who is in the process of, starting the process of finalizing our district's equity policy. As a parent, as a director, as an interested party, I can tell you it represents, it's already not in final form, but as it stands, it represents, I think, this community very, very well. So I'm excited to brush that up. I'm excited to get that in front of the board and discuss that in the next month or so and finalize that. So thank you to Emily. She's not here, but thank you to all of her work on that. She, like all the stakeholders in the district, the students are always, each and every student is always front and center in that work. And so as we go into that process, I would like everybody, both in the district and in the community, to please keep that in mind and recognize that it is all about these students. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Director Wiggins. Director Pignelli?
These are some great reports, and thank you to fellow board directors for the work and contributions they're making in the community. So continuing on the theme of equity, Director Miller, who's not with us tonight, and I are the liaisons, if you recall, from the board to the Equity Steering Committee, and there was a meeting this morning, bridging into the afternoon, and I just want to thank that group of individuals that amidst the trying to manage the schedules and the classroom teaching, everything, still show up for those conversations to continue that work. And we're able to look at some companion policy along with the potential of our equity policy and have some wonderful insight. And so I know I, for one, am really looking forward to the work study next week, where that's coming before the board for not wordsmithing at this point, but really a heartfelt conversation around what do we want this policy to provide for our system and for our students and for our community so that we serve. So I'm looking really forward to sharing the work that has been done with the full board and working together with everyone on that. I will hold my comments with respect to the Housing Committee attendance as a committee member, because I know that's on the agenda tonight. I will offer that last night was the monthly Greater Maple Valley Unincorporated Area Council, that's a mouthful, to which I serve as a liaison and provide a report for the district. And so they are aware of the highlights, some of what you provide in our updates, Mike, as well as our student board rep, Aditi Rana, also joined us last night and provided a student report to that community, or to that group of people, which went really well. I think it was, one, you represented your cohort well, but also it gave that collection of leaders in our district a view into the experience that our students are having. And it shines a wonderful light on it from their perspective. So thank you, Aditi, for taking time for that. I also want to share that I had the unexpected but intentional opportunity to spend about an hour with 4 of our previous student school board reps who are now graduated and in college, and get a perspective on what their experience has been like, whether it be for one semester or the last year and a half. And those students now represent colleges here locally, University of Washington, Texas Christian University in Texas, Vanderbilt University in Nashville, and Purdue University. And so it was a real nice broad spectrum of local and far away. And what I wanted to share with the board, and we can talk more about this later, but what was so wonderful was for them to share not just their experience as a student school board rep and how that has influenced their ability to acclimate in their environment, but how the instructional learning that they had in high school really prepared them for the academic work that they're being called to do at the university level. There was some other feedback as well as to how we could expand, and I think we're already doing some of this, expand what the future ready experience looks like for our younger high school students, and we see that in an agenda item coming up tonight. And so I just wanted to celebrate that because they were enthusiastic. They felt on par, if you will, with student cohorts that maybe attended very elite, whether it be boarding schools or private schools, and just really did not feel at all intimidated with their environment. And I feel like that was something I wanted to celebrate alongside you. I too want to say thank you. Incredible efforts it takes for each of us every day to just get up, put our feet on the ground, walk out the door, and do what we're called to do. So thank you to everyone in that regard. I also wanted to provide a short book review. So this book is called Deep Kindness by Houston Kraft. He is a local individual who was a presenter for those of you who were able to participate in the WASDA conference, right? He was one of the keynote speakers. I offer this for anyone who wants to borrow it. Mr. Hansen also has a copy. But it really reminds us that kindness is a habit, and the concept of confetti kindness is really easy, but deep kindness on a continual basis and practicing that and nurturing that and essentially incorporating it in our daily living is the harder step. But this is a really good reminder and an easy read that to call us each to perhaps incrementally 1% a day, go a little deeper with our kindness. So it's here, wonderful book read, anyone who would like to borrow it. My final item, I really do not want to take away from the wonderful work that's going on in this district and that we're about to experience in front of us. I'm excited about agenda items that are coming forward and the work that's being done. But I did want to share one last item, and I'm a little self-conscious of this because it feels a little selfish, but it also feels really important, and I hope you will accommodate me. So this is a letter that I'm going to hand to you addressed to each of my fellow board members and Superintendent Hansen. After being recently reelected and sworn in to serve a second 4-year term as a school board director to Tahoma School District number 409, representing District number 5, I thoughtfully and deliberately recommitted my volunteer time in service to our shared community and the families, students, and employees of the Tahoma School District. It is with deep and genuine intent that I choose to dedicate my time to this important leadership service in partnership with others to bring forward a sustainable public school experience that offers students a continual home for learning and experiences that successfully help shape their thirst for lifelong learning, enhances their future, and the communities in which they ultimately live and serve. Alongside this deep intent to serve students and their learning is a steadfast and well-honed professional dedication to sound systems governance and transparency, even when it's difficult to navigate or differing perspectives dominate. As a credentialed actuary and financial professional, it is imperative for me to offer my authentic view with the genuine intent of mitigating risks to the system in order to focus our service on the students under our care over the long term. Our duty under the laws of the state of Washington is shared by each of us as board members. However, this does not mean that we each always see these duties through the same lens. Over the term of my Tahoma School Board service, there are numerous occasions that have accumulated to diminish, silence, or ignore my voice, my perspectives, and my inquiries on behalf of our shared constituencies I aim to serve. Despite these occasions, my love is unbounded for the students, for our shared purpose and our community. So I continue to be fully present, engaged, available, diligent, and consistent in my duties, maintaining my integrity, inquiry, inspiration, and appreciation, and with a personal ambition to learn and be better for the community. The students are my constant mirror. At this particular time, the burden of serving as school board director and maintaining my personal integrity has grown too heavy and the silencing of my inquiry and voice too deep. As such, absent the willingness of a requisite number of my board colleagues to move certain items forward for public discussion, and absent certain of my policy-driven inquiries to be afforded a respectful response, I hereby offer my resignation from the Tahoma School District 409 Director Number 5 position, effective at the conclusion of the February 28, 2022 board meeting. This delayed effective date affords us the opportunity for me and my board colleagues to further explore resolution in a collegial manner, in which case I will welcomely retract this resignation in order to move forward together in service to and in concert with the Tahoma Cares values, which we all share and embrace for students in our community. Respectfully, and with Tahoma heart, Valerie Paganelli.
Thank you, Director Paganelli. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
That would be it for that agenda item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I have two items I wanted to mention today. First, I don't know if you all watch 60 Minutes. Do you happen to watch that? But there was a great episode on Sunday, and I think it's actually perfect timing for the letter that you just shared with us. And it was talking about how there is a nonprofit organization that's bringing together two people at a time who come from two opposite points of view, and they're having conversations with each other and coming to common ground. And so I continue to be hopeful that in this, in our community, that we're going to be able to do that. And I know that we have many people who are invested in our students, and we may have very many different points of view about how we will best serve them. But I am extremely grateful and proud to be part of Tahoma because we do such a beautiful job of always putting students at the center of every decision that we make. So that feels timely with your announcement. 60 Minutes. And then the second thing I wanted to mention is that we have a team of people in this building who work every day, long hours, often on the weekends, spending time away from their families, supporting our students. And I think of it very much like a theatrical production. You see the people on stage, the teachers, the paras who are supporting our kids. They're front and center. We see them every day when we drop our children off at school. But there is a team of people who are behind the stage, really pulling a lot of strings and making things happen. And so I wanted to give them recognition tonight because, especially in the last 2 weeks, we've had a number of hurdles with weather and COVID spikes and just all the things that have come our way, and they've handled it with grace. They've shown up, they've worked very long hours, they've continued to show the dedication and heart that makes Tahoma such a phenomenal place to be. And so I am grateful, I know our board is grateful, and most importantly, our students are grateful because they get to benefit from all of their hard work and their expertise. So I am very grateful to be part of this about Tahoma. So that will conclude agenda item 4.03, and we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the presentation, discussion, and action item portion of our evening. As we move into this section, I would like to remind everyone that the board has agreed on using round robin to ensure that each member has equal opportunity to speak. We will keep our discussion length per agenda item to 20 minutes, which I'm going to monitor, and individual board members' discussions to 3 minutes per agenda item, which Ms. Wheeler is going to monitor for us. Each director's time will begin with the first word they speak and will continue through the responses that are provided. So we will move on to agenda item 5.01, which is the first reading and the adoption of 2022-2023 secondary course catalog. And I'm excited to welcome our Tahoma High School principal, Terry Lee, to lead this portion of our agenda.
Thank you very much. This is an exciting night, but I want to start off with whoop whoop for our With the People. State championships don't come around that often. We have some amazing constitutional lawyers that do a great job. I also wanted to extend a little off topic, but this Saturday night our boys and girls play at-home basketball. Our girls are ranked #1 in state. Our boys are ranked #5 in state, play Auburn. It should be a great time, and even bigger than that, on Saturday, the Martin Luther King Day tournament invites the top teams in the state to play down at Showwear Center, and I can get you guys passes to that. Our girls play our #1 girls play the #2 Woodinville, and our #5 boys play Kings, who I believe are ranked 8th in state. So should be 2 really good basketball games, and our boys wrestling team, by the way, is ranked 3rd in state. So having a pretty good winter along with state championships. So if you guys are around on Saturday or Monday, I'd love to have you down. Just shoot me an email. One of the things I'm most proud of at Tahoma High School is the robust schedule that we're able to offer our kids. You won't find a high school in Washington State with courses like we have, or a more robust schedule, and I'm sure every student here would say the hardest thing they have to do is to sit down and decide what classes they don't get to take versus those that they do. I want to give a shout out to our school board, because 3 years ago, this same night, our school board took a leap of faith and said, we need an orchestra. And we want to support an orchestra in our middle school programs to eventually grow to our high school programs. And one of the 3 courses that we are proposing tonight is an orchestra at the high school, an advanced orchestra. So if you look into the packet, you'd see that. So I could go on and on about that, but I want to recognize our orchestra. They have never had a full year together since we put it, because of COVID, because of the last couple of years, and now we're coming to you from numbers at the high school that we started out with. I think Matt can go into it, but I think we started with 23 kids, and now we're looking at over 50. So we had to start at that middle school, a heavy lift for our teachers, our band teachers, because they weren't orchestra people, but they learned, and then we got the instruments thanks to your support. And I think music speaks louder than words. And I would like to have our orchestra come in, and Mr. Cole come up to the mic and bring our orchestra kids in so you see what you created, and that's why we do this night. So Matt and orchestra players, come on in. I see we got some parents here tonight too. Matt, you want to come on up? Mr. Cole?
Thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to come and to perform for you and to share our music. These are students from our chamber orchestra, which is our concert group has 55 right now, and the exciting part is we have 2 seniors out of that 55. So that is a fantastic demonstration of growth. And they took a leap of faith in coming in and giving the orchestra a try when we started, and here we are. This group of students has been rehearsing once a week after school on their own time as an advanced orchestra. And so now we have an opportunity to be able to share one of those pieces with you, so you get a chance to hear this advanced orchestra, the opportunity for them to complete the scaffolding that was designed and supported by you at the beginning, where now we have a beginning orchestra all the way up to now we have an advanced orchestra. So at the high school level, the goal is to be able to provide that growth and that opportunity over their 4 years to advance. And so tonight's going to be an example of being able to share that with you. Tonight we're going to be playing Allegro Presto from Symphony No. 2, and the arranger of it is Deborah Baker Monday. So you'll get a chance to be able to hear theirs. We have members of our section, Leah, Aubrey, Kayleen, Kylan, and TK in our violin section. Our viola section is represented by Kristen tonight. And in our second violins, we have David and JD. And then in our cellos, representing our cello section from chamber, we have Hunter and Stephen. And then our bassist, one of our 2 seniors in our orchestra, Christian, is going to be playing bass with us tonight. So thank you again so much for your time and the opportunity to be able to share their hard work.
us tonight. It was a really
Mr. Cole, can you come do that every?
Yes.
Yeah, but they've been working so hard to get to keep that going through winter break.
Wow.
That's amazing. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes.
I know Terry acknowledges Matt quite a bit, but I really need to give a public shout out to Matt Cole. For those of us who've been around here a long time and seen the band program ebb and flow since Matt's arrival, it's done nothing but grow, engage kids, be a positive experience for them. And that is singularly a part of Matt Cole, his connection with families and his connection with kids. So thank you, Matt, for what you do for our kids.
Thank you, Matt.
So chamber orchestra is the first class we're asking you to approve moving forward, which is our advanced program. But again, this is what you do. This is what you created, and that's that vision of starting from nothing to grow to something like what you just heard tonight. So I'm sure you've read through the documents and how the program is going, where we would like to see it go. So that's first one, chamber orchestra. The second one, also in the visual performing arts, is improv, which is a continuation of our drama program and an opportunity for kids in the drama to do an improvisational class. So we're asking for that approval. And the third and last approval of new courses is the career exploration. And that's primarily designed for 9th and 10th graders that just aren't sure what direction they want to head, what pathway they want to go down, which definitely aligns with their future ready vision. We'll be bringing in guest speakers, different field trips going off around in our local area, and letting them explore a little bit what careers are like. So that goes everything from building their own resumes to looking at college or tech school or directly to the world of work. So that's the 3 courses, new courses. Like I said, we have the largest course catalog in Washington State. And usually we're coming here sometimes, League Valley, you've probably seen it, and we'll bring in 20 new courses. We're 3 this year. Some are revisions to some of the others that you might have some questions about. And last year we were also asked for what's the impact of adding a new course on other courses. So we gave you some data there of which ones grew, which ones have reduced. So questions that I can answer for you.
Can you just explain, sorry, Michael, can you just explain the reduced, what does that mean? How did that come about? Is that like self-reduction, or is that just because enrollment was down, or?
It's a little bit like supply and demand. If you introduce a new course that grows and becomes very popular, that moves students away from another course. So we were kind of asked, how could we track that? Which is a challenge in COVID. It is also a challenge with growth, because a lot of the new courses that you'll see in that packet, the courses grew because of growth, more students. So it's not exactly even numbers.
Thank you.
Good question.
Haley, did you have a question?
No, yes, I do have a question. But so in here you referenced that you're assessing current programs and changing student needs. I think you may have just touched on that a bit, but so is it really based on student enrollment increase, staff increase changes, and student choice that's kind of driving these courses and the proposals? Is that how you're coming to this then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great question, Haley. And just for your reference, some schools, they divide their schedule, divisive schedule based on what staff want to teach.
Okay.
We drive our schedule based on what students sign up for.
Okay.
So we get some shifts, and scheduling is a challenge. We're looking at hundreds of courses. Now, you can't always offer all the courses that students want to take. Like an advanced French class might be an example, and you have only 10 sign up for it. You might not be able to offer it. Or you might get a shift towards an orchestra or another class where class numbers reduce. So we do the best we can to build the classes that students want to take, but we also have them put their number 2 and number 3 choices, which they have many choices to choose from.
So then, and I just have 2 more questions, if that's okay. So then, does this kind of ebb and flow yearly? Or do you try to really kind of just create a baseline that you think is going to serve the population?
It truly is driven by student choice.
Okay.
But there's not these huge wide
Yeah.
swings like you might think. It's relatively stable. You might be, up a couple here, you might be down a couple here. Some of them are dependent on a teacher that really has an expertise in an area that might leave, or the students aren't necessarily interested in. It keeps people driving courses that they want to teach and students taking courses that they want to take. So it's really become somewhat competitive in the elective area that you have to have a top-notch program or students aren't going to choose to take it.
Okay, great. And then my last question for you, CTE is one of my favorites, as you know. I was very
Yes.
excited about that when I came and visited you. And that's the Career Technical Education, right?
Yep.
That's what that stands for. And so, in looking at the new course offerings, when I was visiting with you, I was real curious how kids know that we have, what we have available. And I think about just kind of, I always reference my son because that's my perspective, the high freshman boys. And I've spoken with a few of them when they've been over at the house, and I said, gosh, have you guys seen, the studio that you have for videography? Have you seen, and a lot of them were like, no, I don't really know about this. So do you find that this course under the CTE, is that really what's going to drive that? So that kids coming in, freshmen and sophomores, they'll be able to come in and really understand what's available to them in terms of the CTE? Is it real specific to that, would you say?
I would say it's real specific to the course catalog and the description that you've seen for these 3 new courses. So the students basically are reading through a catalog that explain courses. Then we do a course fair where the students can go around and meet, particularly with CTE teachers, and they set up a table. They might have students that are in the program to do that. And then we try to, we'll see with COVID, is bring the 8th graders up because that's kind of critical. They've never even been in the school, so they don't even have an opportunity. So we're going to try to do small tours this year for 8th graders, 2B, 9th graders, to get a sense of, wow, look at this auto program, look at the machining manufacturing program, look at the music program, to be able to see the school.
Okay, but this program specifically, this course is more driven towards freshmen, sophomores? Even?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going to try to target first generation students that have not, their parents have not been to college.
Okay.
And we've got some of that, so we're going to try to target that somewhat where they might need some additional assistance, but it's open to any 9th or 10th grader. And again, we might have 30, which would be 1 course. We might have 60, which would be 2, 90. It just depends on how many students sign up for it, which then takes away from another course. Right? So you kind of get a little bit of that.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Director Paganelli, did you have questions?
I do, thank you. This is exciting. One, I want to say again, thank you. And AJ, I saw you recording, and a small request, I know it's going to go somewhere, but can we be really deliberate in making sure that some of the board members that were here the night, that that got approved, that they have the opportunity to see that? Because that was spectacular, and I felt like I was experiencing it for them too, and I'd love for them to be able to see that. I want to also thank you for the summary of changes. That lifts a lot out of that really thick document that I remember previously digesting, and so it really summarizes nicely, so thank you for that. And I also want to say on the course descriptions that I appreciated the tie back to district goals, right? And it was more resonant in some than others, but future ready goals and the improv and calling upon what we as a board are looking for in order to impress upon our students, and it's called out in those course descriptions. I really appreciate that thread and acknowledgement that those courses.
That kind of needs to go to Judy Gallipo and Don Wakely that just really worked hard on making that connection and making it an easier document for you to see what is the connection for growth for students.
Yeah, so thank you, Dawn, to you and those who were done. I know Judy wasn't able to be with us tonight, so please extend that to her as well. I did notice a little bit of a corollary to Haley's question, that the net is plus 32 semesters. But I'm assuming that that's just where we stand today, that then how registration plays out, we're not necessarily guaranteeing that our system is taking on 32 new semesters of content. It's just what we're making available, and then it will shape from there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, you have to throw in there growth, more.
Yeah,
students.
some of it may
Yeah.
well be growth, but
Yeah.
we don't know for sure if it's going to be plus 32 semesters. And so then, when does the come together moment come relative to staffing and hiring decisions that we need to make in support of the potential of plus 32 semesters?
So the course, basically students start registering the end of May, early March. We get all those raw numbers. What courses do you want to take? We break those down into courses, like 3 of this, 6 of that, and then we put staffing against that. Then we meet with Lori and say, what does our enrollment look like compared to our staffing? And some years, if we have increased enrollment, we get increased staffing. If we have decreased enrollment, we have decreased staffing. So we get an X number, 100, if you will, of teachers, and then those teachers are all figuring out, but we can't go to 110 because we want to. We just get the staffing from Lori.
And then we calibrate
And then-
content of expertise for delivery of the courses that
Yeah.
we
Well,
are.
that's the tough part of scheduling, is trying to get it down to matching up with what teachers can teach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great report.
Thank you.
Student board reps, do you have any questions you wanted to ask?
Yes, I did.
Sanjana?
Yeah, so one of my concerns was about the language classes that are being reduced. So I noticed that French 1, Spanish 2, ASL 1, Spanish 3, and ASL 2 were being reduced. So I just want to make sure and reiterate what Mr. Williams stated earlier, how the sections reduced means that it's going to be gone for the next school year. Is that correct?
Well, this is past data, but so for next year, it'll be based on what students sign up for.
Oh.
So for example, if a class was reduced, it's because not enough students signed up for it to run that course. That's that balance piece. So next year's data will be based on what students sign up for. So there could be the French or Spanish or whichever ones you're talking about. It just depends on numbers of students that sign up for it.
Okay, and it's not a concern about what I was concerned about was about in colleges and in like to make us future ready is a big Tahoma goal, right? And one concern was that a lot of colleges and in the college application process, as many seniors are in, it's noticed that colleges look for consistency in language classes, especially if you're trying to pursue English or especially in engineering, it shows that you're diversified as a student. And that was just one of my concerns as a student who has taken 4 years in Spanish. Colleges seeing that on your application was very influential in their decision, and as well as your other classes as AP Chemistry, AP Psychology, and all those other AP classes. I just wanted to make that note in your decision for next year.
Yeah. And basically what happens there is we sit down with the teachers and we say, okay, we can run this class of 15, which means this class of 30 doesn't get offered because the teacher can only teach one of the two, and we have to make a decision. But that's a heavy weighted piece of that decision is that college bound, that future ready, how can we continue? We like to have classes above 20 in order to support it, and then that's a more logical decision when you're killing a class of 30 on the other side because you only have so much staffing based on courses that students need to take.
So thank you.
Good question.
Machu?
This is more a journal request, but I have some actual questions that second. But is it possible that we scroll down the document so that the general audience can see the course changes being discussed? All right. Okay, so my main question was really not to be critical of the course, but how is career exploration going to be different from freshman success step to a lesser degree in other CTE classes? Because it seems like you're covering sort of an overlapping content area, some of these things that students already have to do.
I think you're accurate in that. So freshman success is a required course all freshmen need to take, and an aspect of that is career exploration. Career exploration in this course is a deep dive into courses and technical schools and colleges, and what would you have to do to achieve that goal as a 9th grader? What should you take as a 10th grader, 11th grader, 12th grader moving forward? So it's just deeper, richer for really a student that's troubled by that. And we do get students that are just like, I don't know. I have no clue where, I don't know if I want to go to college, not go to college, so it gets into all of those pieces.
And I think just echoing, this is more just a general comment, but echoing some of John's concerns that, especially that if you're seeing, especially, not just concerns about the courses being offered, but overall enrollment, if less students are enrolling in sort of the first level of foreign language classes, that I forget off the top of my head, if computer language was increased. And I know that policy has recently changed to allow that to be considered foreign language credit, but if we're seeing decreased demands, to be conscious that we might have students then picking up that in a sort of rush to get foreign language done before they graduate.
You're right, right. It's a balance in trying to figure that out, and sometimes you get this ebb and flow of you can't offer, let's say you're a junior, there's not enough that sign up for it, so you don't offer it your junior year, but then come your senior year, we're able to offer it because the juniors and seniors can both take it. So sometimes you kind of get this 2-year cycle going through courses like what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that just leads into it. Are any of the courses being cut going to lead to sort of a permanent, more lasting reduction of the ability to offer that, or is it more just a off-year thing?
Some courses are, we call it boneyarded, meaning that we traditionally haven't had enough students sign up for a course. So we put it in the boneyard, so to speak, and we say, let's hang on to that because we get these schedule aberrations, like 10 people might sign up for this one that we boneyarded, so then they have to go to something else. So if we don't have that course there, then that has that student sign up for a course that we definitely would be offering. So it doesn't happen a lot, but occasionally we have to take some off the books because they just don't seem to fill.
Yeah, but none of them are just being permanently taken off the books this year, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, we wait to see what students register for.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And that helps our hiring.
I couldn't be glad to hire. I just, thank you, President Hollowell. I just want to acknowledge one of the pieces that Terry stated, or Mr. Duty stated at the beginning. We're in a unique opportunity for our kids when the state moved to a Core 24, and we brought a community group together led by Executive Director Wakely, listen to the community and staff about what do we want to do in order to provide our kids opportunities for these 24 credits. And that's what led to our high school's 8-period schedule. And the huge added benefit of that is the flexibility that students have in their schedule to explore courses. And that's led to this rich course offering that we have. It is highly competitive, but also rich. And so thank you to Mr. Duty and his leadership around that and our teaching and learning department as well. So thank you to both of them.
Terry, I'll just close by saying I always get so excited to see this list. Every year it just gets better and better. So thank you to you and the team of people who worked on this. It's really phenomenal work and I'm excited for our kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We are going to move on to agenda item 5.02, which is our housing update. And as we have Director of Special Services Annette Whittlesey and Tahoma Elementary Principal Jerry Gaston joining us, I'm going to remind everybody that the board listened to an update and held a discussion regarding our housing update at the October 9th school board retreat that lasted about an hour. So this is a follow-up to that previous discussion. So welcome to you both. We're excited you're here.
Thank you. Annette and I have been working together for quite a few years and never had an orchestra.
It was all for you.
We're feeling really good about
Yes.
that. As you know, the Housing Committee was convened in 2019 at your direction to try to find recommendations for how we fit all our students in and our growing population for both the short term and the long term. And what was intended to be less than a year committee is now in its 3rd year, and we keep going strong. Part of that strength is that we this year recruited some new members to fill some vacancies. We had a lot of people interested in joining the work, and we found some members that already are committed to it and asking great questions and contributing a lot to the group as well. So one of the big picture items that's happening right now is the committee is feeling like the more information we're able to gather at this point, the better. To that end, we are awaiting some more information from the demographer on an update to his most recent report, maybe 6 months ago. We're also engaged now with an architect, Heather, that the district has worked with previously, try to test out some of our ideas, to get her input and insights into those ideas. Heather is going to meet and debrief with Annette and I, along with Assistant Superintendent Cloud, sometime in the near future, I think maybe next week now. So that'll be kind of exciting to get her input. One of the things for sure that came out of our recent meeting is that we will need to do a specific site-based deep dive into the capacity of each of our buildings to get a better idea of what's really happening out there and help inform our decisions even more.
And it really jumped up while you were watching the orchestra and then thinking about the course catalog, about what Heather, the architect, is asking us about isn't just what's the number of seats that you need in each one of these school buildings. It's what are those programs underneath it? What's happening? What's that district struggle that we have for fitting in programs? And so I was kind of trying to balance it out. We're a great follow-up to what is it that's happening in the classrooms. Is that what's the 10-year plan for how we house all of those programs? And part of what Heather is going to be able to bring to us is also how do you flex? Like she was saying to us the other night with the housing committee, I can't sit with you and tell you you need all of these spaces for the next 10 years because we need to flex as Terry and his team are flexing and saying, it's not this course, it's that course now for the next 5 years that students are interested in. So how do we have that space available and the flexibility? And that's where Heather was really saying to us, hey, I need to know what's your capacity at each of those sites, and then where is the struggle at each of those sites, and then she can help us with that brainstorming.
So I think that added information piece that both of the Democracy and Heather are going to bring to the committee is, they're both going to be really valuable, just the information. There was one other thing.
I think the big timeline piece
There,
was what
timeline.
Heather, right, that Heather was talking to us too. We were jumping right in, Jerry and I, as we've been doing all of the planning, and we were right there to say, hey, we can help set up those tent poles for timing. And she had us take a step and take a breath and say, well, actually, that is what I do in the role of the architect, is to think about what are the phases? What do you need to have happen, kind of as your end point? How do we back it up in terms of what are the phases of looking at the data? And then what's the right timing to come to you as a school board to say, here is that recommendation or recommendations to be considered, and then whether you're having to think about the bond or what other steps that you need to do in addressing all of those needs. So that's the other part we'll be meeting with Heather about is, as she's heard now from the committee, what is that timeline? And right now, we put it to her in the email to say it would really be just that basic straw draft. Has she started to think about that based on what we were talking about in the big picture?
And we're trying to acknowledge that at your last direction, you had said, hey, how about recommendations this coming September? And we did share that with Heather as well. That's about it from the Housing Committee.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Yes, Haley.
This may be my newness to this role, but is there a place for student voice on the housing committee?
Yep, our students are
Wonderful. Okay, thanks.
and certainly if students or Val was with us the other night, and Malia is also on the committee, anybody had comments about kind of those last two steps that we've had, we're happy to have you join in the discussion.
Yeah, I wanted to offer to my colleagues that the last committee meeting was a little bit of push me, pull you, but in the end, I think everyone understood the ground we were trying to cover, because it's this awkward stage of, well, wait a second, we don't really have a recommendation, but oh my gosh, we're inviting an architect into the conversation of what comes first, and it's sort of interchangeable, and that uncomfortable feeling, I think, is to be expected at this stage, because we're stepping forward without necessarily knowing exactly what we're stepping forward towards, but it helps to shape the group's thinking. And so from having been a part of it from the beginning, I do know that, foundationally the group looked at a lot of things, as you know too, because you were there as well. And I think there's the refresh on the demographer's report, and perhaps other information that the committee has foundationally built their brainstorming on, just making sure that that's still solid foundation for continuing the work, which I appreciate. And then also the idea of who the committee members are, I think would be helpful for the full board who hasn't experienced it, right? What was our goal at the start as far as the voices that we had involved? What was their role? Who were the voting members versus not in establishing the rubric that the group is going to be using to vet different ideas to where we are in the end, right? Just to show that continuity of participation, involvement, and thinking. And to Jerry and Annette's credit, I think that it's also important to know that it's going forward to go back, to go forward to go back, and you guys have done a really nice job of making new committee members feel welcome, asking questions of ground we've already covered, but getting everybody sort of front and center and having a repository where all our documents live. So technically, any of the board members could also go poking around in there and see whatever they might like to ingest.
Because it really does spell out what are those issues we were trying to solve, what are all of those ideas we brainstormed about. It kind of explores that whole idea about all the membership and the voices that were represented. Then it shows the role about why that halt need to happen because of the pandemic, but also the small steps that did occur because of elementary housing needs that have to be taken care of. And then now just moving forward with this swing again.
And the provocative questions that it prompted from the committee too, going through that, I think helped solidify some of what's coming out of the work. So,
Director Wiggins, did you have anything you wanted to ask or add?
No, I think just, it sounds like it's not what you would consider a linear process necessarily, and so I appreciate that. I appreciate that understanding and this, to put a fine point on it, the architect kind of helps lead through that. So the things that we think we need to have set down as stakes are actually things the architect comes in and consults on and helps us think through those. So it's, if you're hearing this and it sounds like it may be backwards, it's not backwards, it's just the way that it works. So I appreciate you clarifying that.
Yeah, to your point, Mr. Wiggins, Heather even helped in the meeting to have the committee see that some of the brainstorm list, the items, were things that are really district-based decisions rather than true housing opportunities for growth. And just to differentiate between what is actually on this list, we needed to have those expertise.
Yeah, if you can just like replicate Tahoma Elementary School wherever you go, I'm good with it. So if that's the plan, then please.
We'll ask.
Thank you.
Student board reps, do you have any questions? Yes.
I think circling back to a point on student representation and timing, because I know it was addressed, I feel like I'm in a bit of a weird position because I just joined the committee, but at the same time, we're talking about September as a timeline for when we bring a recommendation to the board, and that's after I graduate. So I think that continuity of seeing how representation of the committee has changed is important, and just generally being able to bring on new members quickly so that they aren't just sitting there confused and then their time is up, especially for students. Especially because buildings and housing are probably some of the biggest commitments that one can make to a school district. We talk about the course catalog, but at the end of the day, that can be fixed the next year. You can't fix building a new elementary school, that wasn't needed.
well, if you are at all in the area, you are welcome to continue to partake. If I'm nice.
I'll just crash the monthly
sounds
card. When it comes to it.
And Mitchie, did you have any questions? I didn't mean to cut you off. No? Okay.
No, that was more just answering the previous question about, question and adding on to that. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Aditi?
Yeah, so just like a comment, just like kind of adding on to what Michi was saying. Like I really liked the fact that me and Michi were able to come to the last two meetings just to see what was going on. And I feel like overall, because you guys took a break, like everyone took a break from the housing committee. And I feel like everyone did a good job of catching everyone up, informing new members, and then also meeting with the architect last time. So I feel like overall the direction it's starting to get back a little more, and also like what Michi was saying, like housing is a very important thing. Like it's important to like plan these things. So the fact that you guys brought in an architect now, even if you weren't exactly 100% sure where you wanted to go, I feel like that was really important. So yeah, I would just say thank you.
And we appreciate both of your contributions, of course, and to their point, we have offered to meet individually with the new members to try to give them a little more opportunity to be up to speed. And in fact, one of them we met with last week. I think it was a productive session. So we're trying to figure out how to induct new members for sure.
Well, thank you both very much for your leadership. Are there any other questions, student board reps? No?
So we won't hear as a board until when next? What we say?
We had set a tentative date to meet with the committee in February on, I think, the 10th. Now we're meeting with Heather and have some things to put into place that will have to be pushed a little bit further. But we're happy to be updated anytime.
Thank you. Thank you both for your leadership.
Get an orchestra before we.
Yes. We will make sure to make an orchestra required, or they will not come. Well, thank you both so much. We're going to move on to agenda item 6.01, which is action to approve our consent agenda. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 6.01, action to approve our consent agenda?
Madam President, I move to approve consent agenda item 6.01.
I second that motion.
Director Paganelli motioned and Director Wiggins seconded. Thank you both. I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Agenda item 6.01, action to approve our consent agenda passes 4-0. We will now move on to agenda item 6.02, action to approve the minutes of the December 21st, 2021 board meeting. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 6.02, action to approve the minutes of the December 21st, 2021 board meeting?
Madam President, move to approve minutes of the December 2021 board meeting, item 6.02.
I second the same.
Director Paganelli motioned and Director Wiggins seconded. Thank you both. Do we have any discussion?
Madam President, I have two comments. Tamara, it's a nuance under my board report regarding my wellness T-shirt. I purchased it. It was not received. I want to make sure that it was clear that there was a transaction involved. And then I have a question regarding approved school site plans, and I apologize, but Lori, were you the one that provided information and answered questions, or was that Superintendent Hanson?
For the site plans?
Uh-huh.
That would have been Mr. Hanson.
Sorry?
Mr. Hanson, it was not me.
That's what I'm wondering, because it currently references you as having provided information and answered questions to the board regarding site plans.
Might have been Dawn.
I think it was Dawn, actually.
It just seemed off, but I couldn't actually remember.
Yeah, can we change that to Dawn?
Okay, so is there any other discussion? So the motion now would be with those two changes in place. Since there's no other discussion, I'm going to call for the vote. And just so you all know, I was not present at that meeting, so I'm going to be abstaining. So I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
And since I am abstaining, the agenda item 6.02, action to approve the minutes of the December 21st, 2021 board meeting passes 3-0. And that takes us to agenda item 7.01, board inquiry tracking system, which is also called BITS. And Superintendent Hanson, do we have any updates to our BITS?
There are no BITS items tonight.
Okay, thank you so much. And that takes us to agenda item 8.01, which is adjournment. So I will adjourn this meeting at 7:47 p.m. Thank you everybody for joining us. We hope to see you back here, same time, same place,